It's funny. I've spoken, over 13,000 times? But thinking back to those early days, well, let's just say it wasn't always pretty.
Huh. Yeah, I think everyone can relate to that feeling.
It really shows that becoming a good communicator is definitely a journey. Everyone starts somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today. The core stuff, the principles of really effective communication.
Yeah, specifically for listeners who want to get a solid grasp quickly, thoroughly, but without getting totally bogged down.
Exactly. And we're using John C. Maxwell's The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication as our guide. Think of it as like an accelerated course.
A shortcut to getting smart on communication. So the mission today.
Basically, pull out the most important nuggets, those insights from Maxwell, the aha moments that people can actually use.
Right, practical stuff to help become a more effective communicator right away.
Okay, so where does Maxwell start? Interestingly, he kind of looks inward first.
Yeah, before even thinking about the audience. He talks about his law of connecting and how it all begins with, well, you.
Understanding yourself,
hmm
your strengths, weaknesses.
Hmm.
Are you naturally funny? Direct.
Your authentic style, basically. Being comfortable with that.
And that self-awareness is just so fundamental, isn't it? You need to know your own defaults, like how you usually
Because
communicate.
you can then adapt consciously,
Yeah.
connect genuinely.
Right. Instead of putting on some act that just doesn't feel right, you got to be comfortable in your own skin first.
Okay, so starting with you.
Sure.
Then, building on that, he brings up this idea of earning the right to speak. Credibility.
Yeah, the weight of your words, as he puts it. It depends on what you've actually achieved, what you've done.
He shares that story about not being asked to speak on, like, golf or music appreciation.
Because, well, he wasn't confident in those areas.
Mm,
It's simple but profound. You cannot give what you do not have.
makes total sense. If you haven't lived it or mastered it, how can you speak with real authority?
Exactly. So his advice for newer speakers is spot on. Talk about what you've learned through experience.
Share the wins and the failures. Be authentic about your journey.
That's what connects. He mentions that story about Gandhi, right? The woman bringing her child.
Oh, yeah, the sugar thing. She wanted Gandhi to tell the boy to stop eating sugar.
Because she believed Gandhi had the credibility, the lived experience, to actually influence the kid. It's about seeking out competence.
So, for anyone listening who wants to communicate with more authority in their field, step one is building that solid competence. People listen when they believe you know.
Definitely. Okay, so you've got self-awareness, you're building credibility. Then Maxwell hits you with motivation.
He asks that pre-direct question. Why do you desire to speak to others? What's the real reason?
And he argues pretty strongly that the main driver should be to benefit the audience, to add value to them.
Which ties right back into his law of connecting and the law of adding value. Makes sense.
Then he brings in his friend Dan Ryland's idea, adapting the 5 levels of leadership for communication.
Right, the credibility levels.
Yeah,
And level one is just a requirement. People listen because they have to.
Yeah, like his example of being a young pastor, people were in the pews because, well, he was the pastor.
That was the requirement.
But he realized quickly that's the lowest level. You can't rely on just your title or position.
It might get you started, but it won't make you effective long term.
Precisely. You've got to move beyond that. Earn their attention, truly connect, provide real value.
Which kind of leads nicely into the next point, doesn't it? Learning from others.
Yes, the law of observation. Maxwell really stresses how vital it is to watch and learn from great communicators.
He talks about his own influences, like Dr. Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah, with his upbeat style and stories. And those rhetoricians at camp meetings, like Lawrence B. Hicks. Powerful stuff.
And then people like Paul Harvey, Cavett Robert, giants in speaking.
And Zig Ziglar. Maxwell talks about his energy, using props, really engaging the audience.
It sounds like he was deliberately soaking it all in, seeing what worked with different people.
He really was. He even quotes Warren Buffett. Something like,
Much of what you become in life depends on whom you choose to admire and copy.
that's the one. And Maxwell clearly did that. He talks about learning from Ziglar, who was outside his usual world.
And then having to adapt his own style later as audiences change.
It really shows the value for anyone listening of looking outside your immediate bubble. Study different models.
So, from all that watching, what were some key takeaways he highlighted? He mentioned Walter Cronkite.
Ah, yes. Cronkite and intimacy. That shift with television, right? Moving from big public speeches.
To feeling like he was talking right to you in your living room.
Exactly. That feeling of trust, that personal connection he built. Even though it was mass media,
It felt one-on-one.
it really did. It fostered this incredible level of trust. People felt they knew him.
Then there's Martin Luther King Jr. Maxwell focuses on rhythm, the
The
pauses.
musicality of his speeches, like, I have a dream. It's almost like poetry or song.
And that rhythm does something, doesn't it? It carries emotion, helps you remember.
Absolutely. Delivery is huge. King's cadence made his message unforgettable, helped
Mhm.
people really absorb it. It shows how pacing and silence can add so much impact.
Something for us all to think about in our own communication. Okay, and the third one, Churchill,
Winston Churchill. And for him, the key takeaway was courage.
especially during World War II, communicating with strength when things look bleak.
Maxwell sees courage as foundational. He also mentions FDR, Roosevelt during the Depression and Pearl Harbor, leaders showing unwavering resolve through their words.
It wasn't just what they said, but the conviction behind it.
Precisely. That bravery galvanized people. So you've got intimacy from Cronkite, rhythm from King, courage from Churchill. Really powerful, memorable techniques.
Definitely things to learn from. Okay, so we've looked inward at credibility, motivation, learning from others. Now he dives into something really core, conviction.
The law of conviction. This is huge. The idea that truly powerful, energetic communication comes from deep belief.
Belief in yourself, belief in your audience, and belief in your actual message.
Yeah, it's the engine, really. He shares that amazing story of Joanne Hession
Right, her business success, then working in Rwandan refugee camps.
and founding Lyft. Her communication had such impact because it was driven by this incredible, deep-seated conviction.
You can feel that passion when someone truly believes. He also shares his own personal conviction, right, about values.
Oh, absolutely. His passion for seeing a country transformed by good values, it's palpable.
And how he targets leaders in those 8 areas of influence: government, business, media.
Because he believes impacting leaders can create widespread change. That's his conviction driving his communication.
He breaks conviction down too, doesn't he, into 3 types.
He does. There's personal conviction, valuing yourself, purpose conviction, knowing your why, and belief conviction, truly believing in your message and its power.
And it's not just feelings, it's integrating feelings with facts, what you know, and thoughts, like observations and principles you've learned.
Exactly. That blend strengthens the conviction. It makes it solid, grounded.
He even shares his own personal guiding principles.
Yeah, like my attitude determines my altitude, or giving is the highest level of living.
Those are his core beliefs, the things fueling his communication.
And understanding this, the power of conviction can be a real aha moment for listeners, I think. Realizing your own beliefs can transform how you connect.
When you genuinely believe, it's
Wow.
contagious.
It absolutely is. It elevates everything.
But okay, you can have all the conviction in the world, but if you haven't done the prep work.
Ah, yes. Into the law of preparation.
Yeah.
Maxwell completely debunks the myth of just winging it.
He learned that the hard way, didn't he? As a young pastor, thinking he could get by without much prep.
Yeah, he realized it might not show immediately, but long term, it holds you back. It limits your growth and impact.
He quotes Jim Rohn, too, something about, you can't share what you don't feel.
You cannot speak that which you do not know. You cannot share that which you do not feel. It perfectly links that internal state, knowing and feeling, to effective communication.
So proper preparation isn't just for the audience, though they benefit.
Right? They get a better, more valuable experience. But it's also huge for the speaker. Confidence, clarity.
Makes sense. Maxwell even talks about his own process, like communicating it to himself first.
Yeah, making sure it resonates with him personally before he shares it, which is smart.
And then he gives us the 5 Ps of preparation. Let's quickly unpack those.
Okay. First, perspective. Remember, it's for the audience. Value them. He uses that Lucy and Charlie Brown analogy.
Uh-huh. Right. Second P.
Personalization. Make it relevant, practical, personal for them.
Third.
Preparing yourself. Mentally, emotionally, experientially. Know it. Feel it. Live it.
Fourth is evaluating effectiveness during the talk.
Yeah, paying attention to how it's landing in real time. Are they getting it? Are they engaged?
And finally, reflecting, looking back afterwards.
Asking those key questions. What worked? What didn't? How can I improve next time?
It really drives home that excellence comes from practice and prep, like his golf analogy.
Yeah, you don't lower your handicap by just wishing. You got to put in the work. Same with communication. Preparation is the way.
Can't deliver what you haven't developed. So true. Okay, one more big area. Collaboration.
The law of collaboration. Such a good one. Some of your best thinking happens with others.
He says his first advice to speakers is start speaking. What's the second?
Enlist the help of other people. Don't try to do it all alone.
He tells that cool story about, was it guessing the weight of an ox?
Francis Galton, yeah. The wisdom of the crowd. No single person got it right, but the average guess was incredibly close.
Wow, that really shows the power of collective input.
It does. And Maxwell says good collaborators are, open-minded, they think abundantly.
They see possibilities, not just problems, and they generate ideas.
Exactly. It's about bringing different perspectives together. And he stresses the idea doesn't have to be yours originally.
Right. Take a good idea, adapt it, build on it. Whether it's from a book, a conversation.
He gives examples like how book titles came about, or collaborating online for everyone communicates, few connect, using others' input.
So the takeaway is capture those good ideas wherever they come from.
And organize them. Have a system so you can find them later. Build your own resource bank.
It all comes down to interdependence, really.
Wow.
Isolated islands were not, as he says.
Linking up with others just amplifies everything. Your thinking, your communication, your impact.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive. We hit on self-awareness being foundational.
Earning the right to speak through competence.
Having the right motivation, adding value.
Learning from the masters through observation.
The sheer power of conviction.
The absolute necessity of preparation.
And finally, the huge benefits of collaboration.
Yeah, it's a lot. But focusing on these key laws for Maxwell really is, like we said, a shortcut.
A way to get a handle on crucial communication principles without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. It gives you a framework to significantly boost your effectiveness.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you process all this, which one of these principles really jumps out at you right now?
Yeah, which one resonates most with where you are, or maybe a challenge you're facing? Is it building conviction? Or maybe being more intentional about preparation?
Or perhaps seeking out collaboration more. Pick one or two things.
And think about how you can consciously put them into practice, like in your very next conversation or presentation.
Because becoming a better communicator, it's not really a destination, is it?
Not at all. It's an ongoing journey, constant learning, and, most importantly,
consistent application, putting it into action.